Well, welcome, welcome, welcome. Here we are in this mystical mist of wonderment where I am, for the time being, the enchanted self once again. And I have my partner with me who is not the enchanted self. So I'm going to let him tell you exactly who he is.
Thank you for welcoming me. I am honored and glad to be here. It's been many years since I sought the advice and the wisdom and the insight of the enchantress, and I come now to seek it once again.
Well, and I am so happy to have you back living in this mystical mist of forest and strange waters and strange happenings. Has been lonely at times, and even though I have tried to fill it with many important and helpful people and lived a life that's been quite full, I always remember that you and I together were able to find wisdom within the mysteries of life and give lessons to our public who often came and hung around us because they liked learning and they wanted to know more about being, and we tried to help them. And it's great that we're going to do it again.
Yes, it is phenomenal. I remember those days of old when we were on UHF and on local cable and platforms that I don't think exist anymore. But we are on the internet. We are joined with people throughout this planet in real time and in recorded time.
Yes.
Miraculous times we find ourselves in.
It's amazing. And I think that our audience, which obviously we hope to some extent will be those wonderful people we left behind over 20 years ago, but will also be totally new people that have never heard of us or been in our world. So I think it might be fun to tell them a little bit about how we met and the type of work we did in the theater, of the type of theater that it was, and what we went through a little bit. So yes, why don't you start? Because you were actually there first, even before I came on the scene.
Yes, I am Greek, and I was taught a lot about my heritage growing up. I went to a Greek parochial school, and what I resonated with most were the most ancient stories, not the ones in the Old and New Testament, which I learned about in religion class, but the ancient myths. Something deep inside of me resonated very powerfully with those stories. And being born in the very late 50s and growing up in the 60s, I was also exposed to what people call the Hercules movies or the sword and sandal films or peplum films, where a lot of these stories, some of them transformed by the writers of the day, were playing out and became part of the consciousness of people living at this time. And so, because of my resonance with that particular story or that particular character, I spent many of my years after I left behind uh, parochial school exploring this story and this character in different cultures throughout the world. So there was Samson in the Bible. There were a few other biblical characters that were very powerful and adventurous. There was Thor of the Vikings. There were the barbarians like Conan in sword and sorcery literature. There was the Dagda of the Celts. There was Indra in Hinduism. So, like my ancient ancestors, I equated all these together. A lot of magicians equated them together as well in their magic, and that became what my life was all about: playing hide and seek with the divine, finding different masks that culture created, and looking past these masks. And I was very interested in the human mind because I liked exploring my mind. And then I liked exploring the minds of other people. So I got uh, involved in human service type of work, I was a therapist, I was a vocational counselor, I was a suicide hotline counselor. I had a lot of different positions. I supervised activity therapists and so forth. And at that time, I was asking myself very many questions. And one of the questions was, how do I live authentically? What do I want to do? And I saw myself as one of the mythic characters that I'd been researching and attempting to embody and express, and having adventures in the modern world. And even though that would be different than being in a play or in a movie where I was that in the ancient world. And I have been in plays and films where I was Samson in one of them, for instance, at the Nyack Village Theater for a while. But it was part of my exploration. And I started dressing the part and having adventures. And I found people with video cameras who recorded my adventures, and we put them out on television at the time. How I actually got into the television and what connected us was with May Eisenberg. I wrote an article about UFO aliens that incarnate among humanity. And usually, when I wrote articles in fringe literature, I got a lot of letters. I got absolutely no letters about this article. So I was disappointed. But I did get a telephone call from May Eisenberg asking if I'd like to be interviewed on a show. So I said, sure. So we made an appointment and I came to be interviewed, and I found May in a huff. She was very upset. Her co-host had been scarfed up by Jenny James, or Jenny Jones, more accurately, which was a show playing on regular television at the time. So she was without somebody to be a co-host. So she asked me if I would mind being a co-host.
Can
So
I interrupt you for 1 minute
sure,
so that I could catch up and then we could do, go back and forth a little bit?
sure.
Because I think everybody may be wondering, where did that lady go? Well, I'm here, and let me just give a quick review of myself because I had a very different background from you, very different, but at some very deep level, I think it wasn't so different. But I went to college, actually to two different girls' colleges, first a year at Smith and then 3 years at Barnard in New York City. And then went on to graduate school to be a teacher because my parents had said, how will you make any money and who will support you? So I had to do something, and got married along the way, and my husband became a psychologist. Uh, he was already planning, I think, to do that before he even knew me. And I eventually also got my license as a psychologist in the state of New Jersey, Boston, and also Massachusetts. However, there was a long road in front of me. I think if I had known how long it was, I'm not sure I would have walked it. It was tiring, it was difficult, because I felt once I became a psychologist in private practice, that psychology was far off from the mark where it should be. I felt that psychologists had spent much too much time on helping people with their problems without giving enough time to helping people recognize their talents and their possible avenues of success and their interests and what they could pull from their lives, even if their lives were very difficult, and create a future for themselves. And that led to me writing a book, The Enchanted Self, a positive therapy, and it being used by many schools as a sort of basic reader into positive psychology. And I was on the radio a lot and doing a lot of things to promote my book as well as to promote myself, and not because I was glamorous or anything, but I had a tremendous drive to give this message out. And I would be on radio shows and I would have a newsletter and I did all sorts of things to push the information out. And it did get out. In fact, positive psychology became big time in psychology, and many other people also, of course, developed themselves within it also. But anyway, I didn't fall into it exactly the same. I'm almost up to you. But what happened was I was at a conference and we could sign up for classes, and I signed up for a class in how to do an interview, something like that, with a camera. And this is a long time ago. These are big, bulky cameras that, you bring it to a conference, you might not even know how to really use it right. But that's the way it was. And so after the conference, I was walking in the street and somebody tapped me on the shoulder. And it was one of the women that had been at the conference. And she said something to me like, it seemed like you were very interested. And I have a public show on TV once a week. I don't know if it was once a week or once every a month. I really don't remember.
Once a week, May was on.
Yeah, but this wasn't May. This was
Oh,
that brunette woman that went on
G
to, she,
Gene Cirillo.
yes, Jane Cirillo. So she said, "Would you like to be my guest?" Well, I literally practically fell into the gutter. I was so in shock at this invitation that had come out of nowhere. And of course I said yes. And of course I went and I was her guest. And that was how and why you and I were able to meet at some point and together, not only continue shows in our own ways, but also I got a show once a month at one point, and
Mhm.
often you came on as my guest, and there we are. So you can jump in and tell them about the place we even worked in. And that was kind of fun and interesting.
It was a UHF studio in Manhattan in the East 30s, I believe. I don't know, 28 or so. It was around there somewhere.
Yeah.
And it had a fire department office in the same building.
Yes,
Uh,
right.
Last time I was there looking for it, I discovered it was gone, long gone, actually, the television studio. And May had us on, then she couldn't do the show anymore. So we divided it into 4 or 5 shows,
Right,
depending on
right.
whether there was a fifth week. And everybody had a week, and we all contributed for the airtime, and we had each other as guests. So it was a great time. It was a fun time, and I loved your shows. I remember one time we took over your show because we were conquering the airwaves, and you played along with that. And then we had the shows where the chef was on the show, and we would talk about various things. And I would be eating turkey legs and other meat. And then you and I had some shows where we'd have some really great conversations, sometimes alone and sometimes with guests. So I
Yeah,
miss those days. Those were a lot of fun,
yeah.
very quirky and very
Yes,
controversial.
I miss them too. Remember, there'd be a knock at the door because I was sitting in an enchanted
Yes,
garden. And you would come in and sit down and join me. And then I guess when the half an hour or 45 minutes was over, you would have to go to your own spaces and I'd say goodbye for the time being. And it was great. It was fabulous. And I remember that we once had a conversation that went something like, maybe someday we'll do a TV show together and maybe we'll even have
yes,
a channel. And you don't know what will happen. Well, that's has happened is now we can do so many things because of the way everything works with technology. And but we want to work we want to go beyond technology. We want to drive you as the audience to new horizons of feeling not only safe in your own being, but feeling that you understand more about yourself and the world, and you feel a kind of magic, not like magic tricks, but a sense of magic about being alive and being able to try things and be a fuller person. And we feel, and you'll speak your probably other words, but I think we both feel that we can do this not only alone for ourselves, as in our own professional lives, but we can do it together in a very interesting way that'll be really helpful. And that's why we want to join together and bring this show about.
I think a good title would be Garden of the Enchantress, to
Yeah,
bring
that's
the
nice.
resonances with those old days. Yes, I'd love to. Next time I'll be more appropriately dressed in Olympian garb. Maybe I'll have a wreath of leaves and flowers in my hair to honor my ancestors, and we can have a great conversation.
Yes,
We're living in a very polarized world, and I would like to discuss some of the issues that are separating us as people. And right now, we're living during a time when many people are in danger of losing their rights and losing their autonomy. So I think it's more important than ever that we sit and look at these things and talk about them.
yes, yes. I think that's true. But I would just say, from my perspective, I will always probably be trying to keep it simple, keep it at a level that people don't get frightened or overwhelmed, and that they can leave this watching this show with either something as simple as sitting on their porch and feeling sort of good, or maybe blowing some bubbles with a grandchild, or they can leave the show and decide to get active in politics or something. But very much we will stay aware of keeping you safe, because that's when you really learn in a comfortable, fun environment that I think we can have fun with.
That sounds like a plan. I'm game, count me in.
So stay alert to us, because we'll be, oh, we'll be doing it. We'll get back in touch with you very soon. Good night for now.
Good night. Thank you. And before we end for tonight, is there anything new and exciting on your horizon?
Yeah, tons of stuff. I have like 3 books on the horizon. 2 are written. One is, I'm just starting it. It's the second book to the one of the other books. So I have a lot of stuff. I'm hoping to have a little bit of fun when it's appropriate, reading a page or two from some of my own books, because they fall right into, well, many of the things we'll be talking about. So yes. What about you?
I have been published in many, actually over 20 paranormal anthologies. One of them just came out. It's called Weird Time by Zontar Press, and it's about time anomalies, or at least my chapters
Um,
about time anomalies. When you work with your mind through meditation and through uh, inner work, you eventually come to states of mind where time seems to operate differently than it does when you're awake and in the beta brainwaves. So I shared a lot of my experiences with there, and I finished contributing a chapter to a book by Llewellyn that I can't talk about right now, but that should be coming out in November.
all right, well, now that you started me, I'll just be a little more clear that the book that I'm hoping to publish within the next 6 months is about 2 young women who were in college in 1960. And I picked that specifically because that was a real change between after the Second World War. Then people were making more money, they felt safer. And then there was a technological slide into the late 50s, plus all sorts of taking of drugs and the flower children and all sorts of things going on. around girls in college at that point. But what I wanted to do with this book, and I think I achieved it, is what these women were really like, their inner lives and who they met and what happened to them. And it's just, I think, the best read I've ever written. So,
And
uh,
I vouch for it. I've had several sneak peeks over the past year and a few months, and it's really remarkably well written, and it's really a slice of life that takes you into the experiences of the character. So I'm looking forward to its publication.
so am I. I'm looking for a definite time and place and the publisher. You know, I can't say anything till it's all set. Anyway, so that's it, and good night for now.
Good night for now. Thank you, Barbara.
Thank you.